I'll share a really vulnerable moment with y'all, probably the most embarrassing moment of my life. But I was 18 years old and I had been in college for 2 weeks on a softball scholarship when my assistant coach called me and she said, "Hey, tomorrow I'm going to church. I just want to know if you'd like to join me." Well, I thought, I'll go to church with you, because I'm thinking I'm going to be a starter this year, right? And my family, we love Jesus, but we didn't really go to church because we couldn't get our asses out of bed in the morning, We did make that a priority on Easter and Christmas, right? Or with the rest of the town. But I was real confused because I thought, is this a test? Is she trying to see if I'm going to love the Lord to be able to play? That's how my brain operated, right? That was probably not her intention at all, but I was going to pass the test. So I show up the next day at church. I got my church clothes on and we get in there and the priest, he's got a gown on. And I thought, well, that's a little funky. My preacher always wore blue jeans and a button up, but a gown works too. Well, a few minutes into it, they started going up and down, up and down, up and down. And they were singing these chanty things that were very ritual-like. It's like they had practiced them in the after hours. Now, we didn't do any of that in my church. The most we ever did in our church was "Can I get a amen?" And that was all that, Bob and Betty Sue in the back had practiced all week long was, how strong can I get my amen? Well, church was over. At least I thought. And then my coach said, "Hey, Danae, we're going to go get in a single file line and we're going to go do this now." And in my head, I'm like, what are we doing? I'm like, because at this point I figured out this was a Catholic church. So I was like, are we going to confessional? Because I just kissed a girl last week. Oh, God. And then she was like, "Just do what I do." And I was like, what is she talking about? Well, I get in the single file line and I happen to look over to my right and I see Coach Nick Saban from the Alabama football team. And I was like, and I'm enamored with him and I'm looking at him like, damn, he is short in real life. Holy shit. And I was like, wait, you can't say that, Danae. You're in Catholic church right now. You're about to have to go to confessional. So before I realized it, I was at the front of the line. My coach already made a hard peel to the left and I was at the front of the line and I was looking at the priest and I went, "Hi." And he goes, "Hi." And I was like, "Are you going to bring out some barbecue and some creamed corn? Is this a potluck? We always got in line for the potluck." And then he just looked at me and he went and hit me on my forehead. And he said, "You are blessed." I didn't know what to do. So I just went, "So are you." I took a little glance over to the right to see if Nick Saban had been watching. Thank God he had his back turned, but the priest just looked at me, and I swear on my life, the priest looked at me, and he goes, "You're new, aren't you?" And I was like, was it a dead giveaway?